we're ready to get started. Um, we're still waiting on one more speaker to join us, Miko. But I guess we can get started. And I'm sure Miko will join us here shortly. So hello and welcome everybody to another exciting Off the Chain AMA. I'm your host, Kelechi Ibe. And, thank you for joining us today, for spending some time with us today. Today, we'll be exploring the fascinating world of AI and Web3. Like we all know, the Web3 and AI, movements, are completely changing the digital landscape, transforming the way we interact, with technology, and just, paving, new ways and new exciting opportunities, for everybody. So in today's AMA, you will discover, crucial skills, for excelling in the AI and Web3 domains, along with insights on how to begin your journey into learning about these innovative technologies. You will also explore the potential of AI and Web3 in addressing real world challenges, and hear about some success stories that showcase the growth in this field. And also we'll get some expert advice on kickstarting your career in AI and Web3, both professionally and also as an investor. So joining us today to discuss this topic, we have Huang, who is a co-founder and CEO of Stand. We have Marisa McKnight, who's a co-founder and CEO of Joba Network. And we also have Miko Matsumura, who is a general partner at Gumi Crypto Group. So really excited to have this panel of experts today to discuss this topic with us. But before we get started, I would like to read our disclaimer. The information provided is for general informational purposes only. All information is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind expressed or implied regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of such information. The statements or opinions expressed in this event are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of Bitmarts or its affiliates, and should not be considered professional financial investment advice. All cryptocurrency investments are highly speculative in nature and involve substantial risk of loss. Past, hypothetical, or simulated performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The value of digital currencies can go up or down, and there can be substantial risk in buying, selling, holding, or trading digital currencies. You should carefully consider whether trading or holding digital currencies is suitable for you based on your personal investment objectives, financial circumstances, and risk tolerance. So with that with that out of the way, before we actually get started, I'll also like to remind our audience that, we still have our Learn to Earn program, going. And, for those of you who are not familiar with this program, the Learn to Earn program is a unique NFT-based initiative designed for our loyal off-the-chain AMA listeners. In this program, you can earn stamp NFTs by actively participating in Bitmart's online AMAs and learning events, both offline and online. And these stamp NFTs serve as proof of attendance and engagement. So as a reminder, the stamp NFTs are not tradable. However, they hold value because for every 2 stamp NFTs you collect, you can exchange them for a special NFT called the Learn to Earn Time Capsule NFTs. Now, this Time Capsule NFTs symbolizes the experiences you've gained as a listener for our off-the-chain AMAs. And unlike the stamp NFTs, the Time Capsule NFTs are actually tradable on the Bitmart NFT marketplace and can contain prices worth up to 50 USDT. So you can choose to open the time capsule NFTs, in which case the 2 stamp NFTs will be burned, or you can list and trade the time capsule NFTs on the Bitmart NFT marketplace. So for instructions on how to collect your stamp NFTs, be sure to check out the information provided on our pinned tweets But remember, the stamp NFTs are only eligible to listeners who stay for at least 30 minutes and who also fill out the Gleam form provided on the website that is attached to the pin tweet. So with no further ado, we would like to kickstart our AMA. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We are going to start with a brief introduction, starting with Ray Huang, who's the co-founder and CEO of Stand. Ray, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. Can you give us 1 second because I'm texting Miko. He's joining like any minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Sorry. Yeah. Maybe you can start with Marisa.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Marisa, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Marisa. I am the co-founder and CEO of Joba Network. We're building a future of work platform that enables more people to have a flexible future work. And my previous experience, I've been mostly working at cryptocurrency exchanges, consulting, advising different projects, and I wanted to build a platform that helped us all collaborate, work together more safely and securely. So that's what we're doing at Joba. And we just launched our closed beta a few weeks ago. So please, have a look, and looking forward to this panel. And we're also looking forward to working with Stand and working with Ree because, she's really embarking on a notable mission to, educate. And so we would like to work with her on supporting their NFTs, displaying them on their Joba profiles. So we're looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this chat. Thank you for having
me. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to kind of delve deeper into, what you guys do and also on the topic for today's AMA. I think Rui, if you I don't know if you're still trying to add Miko, but if you can just, I guess, give us a brief introduction, about, yourself and also, your company, Stand.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Marisa, as well. So my company's Stand. We are a learn-to-earn platform, and we also have on the recruitment after the students' graduation from our platform. So like it's very interesting. Previously, we want to have so many like e-learning classes, recordings and everything, but I think after ChatGPT, it really reshaped our learning model. I think I will tell more about how AI has like shifted our learning approach later, but I think today is a really amazing topic. So I want to really like thank Meta, Era, and Bmart for this great opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Like you said, ChatGPT kind of changed the game in a lot of ways, for a lot of industries. And that's, part of the conversation we're going to be having today, the impact of AI. I guess, while we wait for Miko to join us, I guess we can just kind of jump into the first set of questions we have here. And of course, when Miko joins us, we're going to do a brief introduction as well once she joins us. So, but just, to kind of, respect, the time of, people currently listening right now, I guess we can go ahead and get started. But I guess the first question here is like, what are some of the most important skills to have, when working in the AI and in Web3 space? Ray, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you somehow like rephrase the question? Yeah.
Yeah. So just like what are some of the most important skills, to have, when working in the AI and Web3 space, just speaking like, professionally.
Yeah, I think number one is of course the lifelong learning skill sets is like anyone, like especially with all this technology develops so fast, just learn fast, get like adjust yourself to any new products, any new skill sets. I think that's super important. And secondly, is just embrace new and different ideas. Sometimes it's even very like conflicting, or like even someone challenge you. I think just to embrace the new ideas and trying to get any new insights from other people. So to wrap up, I think number one, learn fast. Number two, embrace new ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, when it comes to, AI in particular, and also Web3, I think, the people who succeed the most seem to be the people who like just jump in with both feet and just, start using the technology, start, exploring the features. And, obviously, in Web3, you can make some mistakes, but, getting that experience, firsthand experience, trumps everything. When it comes to exploring new technologies. It looks like we have Miko with us right now. So I guess we'd like to give Miko an opportunity to give us a brief introduction of himself, and also Gumi Crypto. Gumi Crypto.
Yeah, hi. Hello, everyone. Let me just introduce myself really quickly. I've been a part of a number of different technology waves here in Silicon Valley. I've been basically here about 30 years, so got my start here with the Java programming language at Sun Microsystems. I've been doing a bunch of entrepreneurship across different cycles, and broadly speaking, what I've seen are really, I would say that I've been sort of professionally involved in two, I would say, substantial waves. I would say that the first wave, I kind of missed it from a professional perspective, right? Which is really, to me, the way I count these waves is not Web 1, 2, and 3. I really think about this as Moore's law, which is the doubling interval of the transistor die, right? So really this kind of availability of mass compute. And I would say that the megacorn companies that were born in this era were Apple and Microsoft. So I would say that, those are nearing or exceeding $3 trillion in total market value. Then a generation after that, and obviously there's microprocessor companies, NVIDIA, AMD, lesser extent Intel, that were also born in that same era, right? I would say the second wave is really the birth of the internet, and I would say that was one that I was able to participate in from Sun Microsystems and the development of the Java programming language. So, I was in developer evangelism team there, so, wasn't the core part of the technical build out of the language, but was really part of that wave. And I think that's really governed by Metcalfe's law, which is this idea of the power of the network or value is proportional to the square of the connected nodes. So, that's a really interesting idea, is this concept of a network effect. And, that's been extremely well characterized with the growth of network effect style companies. Definitely recommend Andrew Chen's book, The Cold Start Problem, which kind of really is a late stage network development handbook, with insights from the birth of Uber. Most recently, I've been working at Gumi Crypto's Capital. That's been the past 5 years or so. And, we invested our Fund 1 into the crypto winter of 2018, 2019, came out with about 8 unicorn scale projects, including investing in the earliest stages, leading a seed round at OpenSea. things like yield guild games in the seed round there, 1inch Credo networks, the first external check there. So, lots of just very, very early stage work. So part of what I wanted to impart kind of on the theme of this room, which is about sort of tips about how to grow alongside these really emerging trends, I would say that like the two biggest things that I would say is, really, first of all, try to figure out the magnitude of a given wave, right? Because the metaphor that I like to use is a friend of mine was learning how to surf, and we go out, paddle out, be a bunch of surfers, and one of the weird things that he noticed is that there were surfers that would just try to jump on every single wave, right? And then there were other surfers that would just sit and let the waves pass. And then, the experienced surfers seem to somehow be able to jump up on their boards and catch the biggest waves, and let the other ones pass, right? So it's interesting to try to understand the magnitude of how big something is, because in the beginnings of all waves, everything looks about the same, right? So, everything looks relatively big. And obviously catching a wave generally involves, being involved in that early part of it, right? So I guess that metaphor that's kind of interesting is that my friend learning how to surf was actually asking the experienced surfers how they do it. And the way it was described was you sit on your surfboard and you actually stick your feet in the water. And then when your feet get cold, it's because there's undertow coming off of the beach, right? So that in a way, if you look at the visible part of the wave that's above, it basically is the result of this undertow that's coming from underneath, right? So you can kind of feel it and see if the wave is of substantial size, right? So, to me, it definitely feels like the AI wave is definitely a big one. The thing that I think is really interesting about this one, though, is that the question about these types of waves is you kind of have to figure out what role you want to play in it or what part you want to play, right? Because one of the really strange things is that there are different waves have different kinds of impacts. And, I think the AI wave is a really, really strange one because I think it may be one of the waves in which there's a really strong kind of like, I guess there'd be a sort of a net loss of economic opportunity for a lot of folks, right? So I think that's a tough one, which is, it's a job killer in certain areas, so I think automation will be pretty prevalent. With respect to AI, I would really very much advise that from wearing my investor hat, like, doing the obvious things isn't always great, right? Because I would say, if you do the obvious things, everyone else will do the obvious things. I think from an investment perspective, the idea of contrarianism is still the prevalent way to make venture class returns. So, the thing that I think is problematic is this concept of popular or herd contrarianism, which I think the reason why that's problematic is that, there's definitely people who claim to be contrarians, on places like Twitter X and things. And, but the problem is that they've jumped into a giant bandwagon full of other so-called contrarians, right? So as soon as a large group of people claim to be contrarians and believe one thing, then they cease to be contrarians, right? So in a sense, that's kind of part of the weird vibe of what's happening, right? So the question becomes like, what do you believe that's true that's different from what other people believe, right? So I think the reason why I'm kind of framing this in the context of AI is that, part of being right in the venture world, there's two dimensions to being right? One of the dimensions to being right that's super important is obviously being right about something that other people aren't right about, right? So, to me, if you can sort of predict the future that everyone else can predict, then your prediction is a pretty low value, because what happens is that gets priced in, right? But the other thing that I think is super important that people don't really clock that hard is the timing. So the when something is going to happen is super important, right? So if predicting something that other people aren't predicting, and then also on the flip side, predicting the timing of something that other people aren't predicting, those are the two dimensions across which you can be, very successful. From the perspective of reasoning about an emerging phenomenon of AI, like I definitely concur with just about everyone else that it is a large phenomenon, so it's going to create a very substantial impact. I would say a couple of things to observe is that the AI field in general has been in the past subjected to very hot summers that are fairly short and very long winters that are quite long, right? And to me, like, the question that people have to ask is, how far do we get on this particular generation of AI, right? And I think that this generation's AI is kind of, there's several different things hitting that are really hitting hard at the same time, right? Obviously, the concept of generative AI really that are kind of very prominently pushed from the idea of things like generative adversarial, right? So I think there's been substantial advancements in, things like evolutionary algorithms and adversarial that kind of enable us to get kind of really extraordinary results. I would say that, some of these signal processing generative AIs like stable diffusion, those are definitely things that I think are, advancing pretty quickly. And then the other field that I think is obviously a big deal is the language model class, right? So obviously the, large language model like ChatGPT, those are the things that seem to be really kind of all popping at the same time, which I think is culminating in a big feeling around the AI wave, right? But, I do think this, which is that a lot of what happens in the past around AI is that these short, hot summers and these cold, long winters produce, I think sometimes cynical behavior from some of the best people in the industry. I would say the other thing that's complicated about AI too is that the paradigm is not necessarily a generalist paradigm. It's people who advance the state of AI are very few in number and very sophisticated. And a lot of those people are working at some of the biggest companies. I would say another thing that's characterizing the AI world is that the large language models, at the very least, take very, very, very large scale compute. So I think they tend to be things like VC driven because of the economics of it. And the other thing that I think is pretty important to understand is when you look at the biggest talent in the AI space, it's a lot of them are not working in startups because, generally what happens is since the summers are so short and the winters are so long, the typical pattern is for sophisticates in AI to use a summer to hop from Microsoft to OpenAI or to hop from OpenAI to Google, and try to lock in as large a salary as possible to keep you warm during these kind of like winter months, right? Because I think the issue around the AI application sphere is that the AI application sphere tends to benefit kind of pretty casual users, right? So in a sense, it's a consumer phenomenon. I think it'll impact a lot of things like gaming. I think that one of the things that's interesting to me about predicting the economic impact of a wave is that for sure this is a really large wave. And so the question becomes, what are the downstream impacts? What's the future of, society? And from a venture perspective, we have to understand what's going to happen within a 4 to 7 year time frame, which is the future time frame that we have to be able to predict professionally. So I think those are kind of my comments. So I would say in terms of converting it into advice, I definitely would say, you should really look to see how your skill set maps to this phenomenon. I do think that the number of people who are inventing new AI algorithms are very few and far between, and generally requires, a PhD or, better. So it definitely is a very rarefied field. And then I think in a way, the weird thing about AI too is that it tends to favor the extremes and squash the middle. So, if you look at something like AI-based art, for example, I could type a query into Stable Diffusion or similar, and I could say, make me a character in the style of, Miyazaki, the Japanese anime guru, right? And so the beneficiaries of that system are myself, who's doing something very casual and simple, and then Miyazaki himself, who is creating a new art style that the AIs can learn from, right? But everyone in between is kind of like gets squashed, right? So I think that's tough, right? Like if you're a commissioned artist who basically, would be, working and creating art, it feels like that's a group of people that will experience more stress and, less economic opportunity as a function of the emergence of this. So anyhow, those are some of my thoughts. I'm happy to yield the floor or, have any other speakers or questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Miko. Yeah, I really like your idea of predicting. Yeah, it reminds me of the three-body problem, that's sci-fi novel. It's really interesting. It's like in the novel, like everyone, like every scientist, they are just trying to predict when this stable era will come. Like when is the time for everyone to get recovered, humanity recover to embrace the new world. Yeah, so I think, and AI, to my understanding, I think AI would be a great powerful tool there. And I'm curious, what do you think, Miko, because I know your experience and have been evaluating so many different projects. Have you seen any great ideas that AI could empower the Web3 projects?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there are little corners that I think are really fruitful and exciting. I think one of the big challenges of the intersection of Web3 and AI is that, in a sense, like when you think about things like intersections, intersections are always smaller than, if you look at set theory, right? The concept of a union is connection between two things, and the concept of an intersection is the kind of overlap, right? And so when you look at the overlap, I would say broadly speaking, when you look at the characteristics of Web3 and you look at the characteristics of AI, I would say that there's several different sort of implications, right? I would say one implication is that in some ways AI's destructive effects on things like Web2, right? So I would say, for example, AI will, destroy Web2 social media. So the question becomes, does blockchain cure what's wrong, right? So I would say that, one of the ways in which AI impacts social media is that, I like to say the cost of generating a fake life and fake users goes down, right? So I think that the emergence of bots goes up. So when you think about Sybil resistance, right, then those applications have to do with things like governance. They have to do with, things like voting rights, voting not necessarily within a national context, but within a context of things like, governance votes within a DAO, this type of thing, right? So, obviously applications like Sybil resistance arise. I'm not an investor in WorldCoin, but obviously WorldCoin is the type of thing that you could see as being a natural Web3 response to the emergence of, just very large botnets. I think one of the big outstanding questions around kind of a direct investment into Web3 social media as such, obviously there's a ton of people chasing it because we're seeing Web2 social media kind of collapse and degrade in front of our eyes, right? And I think it'll get much, much worse, right? Instead of getting much better, right? So when you look at something like Threads, right, you can say, oh, Mark Zuckerberg is like jumping into the game, but in a way, he doesn't have much choice because I think Instagram is going to die, right? So, unless he can move the Instagram user base into Threads, I think Instagram is over, right? I think the primary, Elon Musk said something, funny, which is he said that Instagram makes its users depressed and Twitter makes its users angry. Which one is better, right? And it's such a funny thing for him to say from a variety of reasons. But I would say that like the idea that Instagram makes its users depressed is really by presenting sort of a fake life, right? So it's like, oh, here's me in my mansion, I've got a famous artist, I have Flo Rida, he's playing a concert here, and now we're going to go on to my G6 and we're going to have a party, and all this kind of stuff can be like falsified, right? And the cost of falsifying stuff like that is going to drop, right? So I think that the idea that people can have enviable lives, I think is going to basically be destroyed, right? So I think that's the end of Instagram, right? So when you think about Web3 as an investable thesis, right, there's a couple of problems that arise immediately, right? One of the things that arises immediately is that entrenched network effects are super hard, right? So there's certain people that are on, if you go to Farcaster, or if you go to like Blue Sky, or if you go to Mastodon, or if you go to Threads, like, it's fun for a little bit and you get a feeling of freedom being away from the toxicity of Twitter. But like, at the end of the day, there's still an entrenched network there, right? So the question that I think you have to try to understand is, does Web2 social media successfully retort, right? Are they able to fix their problems, for example? And some of the solutions may not require Web3 at all, right? So for example, it's pretty clear that Elon Musk is going to add payment features to the Everything app, or X, right? And that his sort of dream for X is something a lot more like WeChat, where it becomes ubiquitous payment, And so the thing that's really interesting about his history with PayPal is that he doesn't, even though he, replaced the Twitter logo, not just with an X, but also with the dog from Dogecoin, I think that's, he knows what blockchain is, right? But he doesn't need blockchain. He can just put in payments that are centralized on top of Twitter and still get the benefits, right? So the question becomes, will Web3 social media even be needed? And will Web2 social media just basically take the cryptography and take the payments and take the privacy and take all? He's already offering creator economy payouts to creators on his platform, right? So like, will all the themes from Web3 social media be stolen and taken by Web2 social media? So I think that's a big concern. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just have something to add to that. I think with I guess like the thesis around like, does the Web3 social media really needed? And I guess, you touched a little bit on the AI and, bots increasing. But I think, what I've been really, keen and trying to follow is, I recently was, speaking to a friend who's a big Twitter influencer, and he was going through explaining to me how much we live in this new attention economy. And I thought that this attention economy thesis was very interesting, given that people move in these herd narratives that you described. And with increasing bots, I really think that if people wanted to design some type of narrative or design some kind of attention, for everyone in humanity to really follow, it's a lot more easy to create a false narrative to make everyone follow. And I think us as humans, people, we really need to, find ways that we can really verify, that these narratives are true and be able to process, all this information that we're getting. And I really think that the value of Web3 really lies more in the social networks. I think we really need to start working on is on-chain identity, and tying these social media accounts to actual identities and people, so that we are not going to be easily influenced and following some of these narratives that might have certain selfish things, or things that are not necessarily good for society. So that thing I think really hit me, and that's just one thing I wanted to add in terms of Web3, social media. And I think, yes, the rails that Elon Musk has been creating have been very much taken on a great initiatives, and really is pushing Web3 to, like, culture and philosophy to the forefront. But I also do think that it's important that it's not just these bots that are going to take over, and that we continue to as people still have some type of say in the new economy, and be able to also receive value from the new digital economy, and that we're not just giving it all away to all these agents. Yeah.
No, I very much like what you're describing, right? Because one of the biggest issues is related to top down versus bottom up, right? And so in a sense, when you look at something like X, right, X is just the most significantly top down thing you would ever see in your life, right? Like, and I'm explicitly calling it X because, like, X is the thing that's top down, right? And it's so top down, right? Elon Musk is top down. Like, even the shiny X sign sitting on top of the former Twitter building is top down, right? It's literally on top of this building, right? So, like, to me, the thing that's very interesting is that the co-optation of the user's power, right, is kind of coupled with this idea of getting perks, right? So if he gives you a creator reward, then you stay on his platform, right? If he gives you privacy, preserving messages, then you stay on his platform, right? But these are all bribes for staying on a platform. And the question is really related to bottom up. And to me, that's something that I think is pretty important about the idea of bottom up, which is how fundamentally has the top disconnected from the bottom, right? Because that's the fundamental nature of revolution, right? Like, if you look at, the French Revolution, one of the most famous things was Marie Antoinette saying, well, if the peasants don't have any bread, then let them eat cake, right? And so this feeling of, like, those people have no idea what's actually happening, I think is a pretty key distinction of what happens in revolution, right? So the thing that's really interesting is the question of how out of touch the leadership is, and how out of touch the top down is, right? Because one of the things that's very interesting about the idea of what you're describing from the bottom up is that when you look at the culture of open source and you look at what's happening in Web3 and DAOs, right, obviously none of that is built to scale very well at the moment, right? So I think at the moment, all of this stuff is very homemade. But the thing that I think is really interesting is that, like, people's voices are being heard. They're just not being heard at mass scale, right? So the question becomes, how much do users accept and tolerate, and how much kind of top down, and, this feeling of sort of being bribed to stay in a system that's sort of maybe falling apart, and I think those are all kind of the biggest themes of whether this stuff really has, profound impact or not. I think it's definitely fun to reason about, talk about, and think about Web3 social media. Obviously, the impact of AI on that is going to be very substantial. I think the question that I think, is directing it kind of back towards broader applications. There are definitely, like, many other applications that will be significantly impacted. And I definitely think there's a huge discussion right now about the impact to identity as a whole, and what the kind of driving use cases for Web3 identity systems are in a world of bots, right? Because the world of AI is the world of bots.
Yeah. And something I'll also add, I guess, with the I guess the increase of like the AI and bots and what you described as like the top-down structure. I'm also like a trained economist by background. So, I've been really watching kind of the rise of inequality. And I think a lot of this has to do with a lot of, value previously being much more captured within systems, within countries, and now this value moving online into the digital economy and, moving up into these, really top down things, and it's all getting aggregated. It keeps moving up. And I think there has to be some type of ways that we can kind of kind of at least try to prevent that from happening, because I think we need a world where that is affordable for everyone, and we need to be able to try to generate some of that value back instead of giving it up to the AIs and giving it up to these Web2 companies that continue to take our data. So, I do think that it's really important that we also talk about like, owning, part of this new AI economy and having some kind of say in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely happy to sort of open and up to questions, or anyone who wants to kind of poke in on this conversation. I definitely feel like it's it's exciting stuff. But, for sure, this time is an incredibly exciting and disruptive time. So like, people will there are going to be major advantage and disadvantage type situations emerging out of this time.
Yeah. Thank you both, and also Ray, for your insight there. I think we covered a lot of stuff during that session there. It's just a lot of things that I took notes on. It's just first from just an investment standpoint of these evolving technologies, like Miko, like you said, it's very important to basically, in a lot of ways, be like a contrarian, like you said, basically predicting what other people are currently not predicting. So I think for our audience here, in terms of how to capitalize on these opportunities is, like again, like Miko said, you can miss the wave if you're not really careful. You have to think like far ahead and see how you can be a part of the next movement or the next strong narrative in the market, and position yourself that way. There's a lot of things happening right now in the AI world, from large language models, and so on. And another thing that I think was worth mentioning is also, the intersection between AI and blockchain technologies, or just maybe Web 2 and Web 3. And the example, that, Miko, you gave is just like how X, for example, how it doesn't necessarily have to be this decentralized, social media platform. It could still be a Web 2 based platform, but also have additions, to blockchain rails. So, for example, Elon Musk will add, Dogecoin as a payment method, or Bitcoin as a payment method, or a tipping service for content creators. So they can be that, I guess, intersection in that way. And also, Marisa brought another point that I thought was very, 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 very important, was just the concept of identity in the world of AI and bots. In right now, you can just pretend to be whoever you want to be. You can just ask ChatGPT, or just pretend to be something you're not. And that is going to get increasingly worse. Even when you look at platforms like Instagram, people can create fake lives and fake, stuff like that. And if that continues, like Marisa said, all that is just going to go to the AI and to the bots. We need to, kind of reel ourselves back in and figure out that, understand that, human, interaction is still going to be king, is still going to be very important. So having that identity, I think, is where, Web3, can play a part, can play a role, right? And making sure that the value being accrued is, going back to the people who actually create the value, which are the users in this point, and not necessarily the bots and, and AI. So I think that's a very interesting conversation that we're currently having right now. I guess I want to just, kind of segue a little bit and just kind of ask the panel, what are some I guess some common, misconceptions, when it comes to AI and Web3 that you would like to address for the audience. I guess we can start with Ray. I think Ray, I think she dropped off. I guess I can just open it up to the panel. Miko, Marisa, are there any kind of misconceptions about AI and Web3 you would like to discuss?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I think first I want to echoing Marisa's point on the AI. On the identity, because I'm always thinking that, for example, like AI is all about taking away our data, and the blockchain is like we want to own the data. So I'm very curious, like how this battle, like which party would win over this battle. So and also to us, I think for Stand, we always want to enable more like AI power to the learners, that they can build up their identity. For example, we just use the AI tutor to really like enhance the learning skills, and also to do like to save their time for the education or the learning cost of their skill building up. So I think for this part, I think AI would definitely be a like double-edged sword. It is just up to like how we are going to use that. Yeah.
One thing I did want to kind of say too, as people try to reason about what makes sense, right? Which is that I think the thing that I think fakery may actually have a positive effect on is kind of commoditizing kind of extremism. And I know that sounds maybe bad, right? Because obviously things like extremism obviously is not that favorable, but at the moment it's being very amplified in the sense that the way to get attention in an attention economy is to do extreme things and say extreme things, right? So I think extremism is kind of trendy, right? But I think the good news is that I think what's going to probably be more valuable and more scarce will probably be courage. Because the thing that I think is really interesting about courage is that courage is something that a machine can't have. And so I think it's something that becomes more scarce in a world of bots, right? So, what does that really exactly mean, right? Which is the thing that's very interesting is that what we're talking about is authenticity and authentic voices, right? So if you go on social media right now, the amplified voices are just extreme, right? But the thing that's really interesting is that, once extremism kind of peters out as a function of like, you're going to be able to see everything, and everything will be questionable as to whether it's true or not, right? So the thing that becomes really interesting are the people who are able to say the things that are true, right? But at the same time, the things that other people don't want to say, right? So if people are saying things that others they don't want to say it, right? One of the things that may be the case is it may be that people don't want to say something because they're scared to, right? And so in a sense, like, it feels like one substrate that may become more valuable, right? Because ultimately we want to get into authenticity, right? And I think that the idea of the power of the individual is the power of that individual's authenticity. But the question becomes, what does the authentic individual look like when unleashed, right? And I think the truly authentic individual is actually something quite strange. and it's something quite unique, right? And I think that the idea that an individual is something unique and strange, actually requires quite a lot of courage, right? And I think that's the thing that I think will not be commoditized in this future. So, I think whatever it is that you choose to do in the AI populated world, I think the frontier, and I think beyond that, the frontier has to be in the realm of things like self-knowledge, right? Because so having courage and self-knowledge is definitely a frontier, right? Because, just having courage, I'll give you an example, is there's a guy named Remy who got really famous climbing buildings and doing daredevil acts, right? So he just fell from a tower in Hong Kong and died, right? So Remy had a lot of courage, and he had an incredible skill. He was an acrobat, like an incredibly skillful, dramatic person, and someone who kind of was pretty extreme. I would say his self-knowledge was quite good in the sense that he had a strong sense of balance and, dexterity and, lots of really good understanding of himself and the world, right? But I think that that's kind of the realm of what I would still characterize as the extreme and not necessarily as the type of individual. It's definitely courage, but it's definitely not sort of the frontier. So, I think something new will arise, and I think leadership is going to change. The way people see others as leaders is going to have to come from probably a much more authentic place.
Yeah, I think I really like the courage word. Yeah, and it reminds me of a very ancient Chinese saying that a person needs to have both courage and wisdom to achieve something. In this AI powered world, these days even on X, I can see some tweets that are very obviously generated by ChatGPT or other different bots. I do see that if for example, if I just read this kind of messages, I will naturally pass that messages. I don't really want to read into that. So at this point, I don't know is how AI is helping people improve their productivity or just helping people to generate the same style thing and lose the authenticity of their original project sense. I think that's very important. And the second one is, in this AI world, everyone is bumped with different messages, even the same style messages were just GPT. I think the bot, the GPT has so much hallucination. It just made up stories. How can I tell that's true or false? How can I tell the authenticity of the message? I think the wisdom behind the courage is also very important. Otherwise, a leader with courage without without wisdom, that would be very dangerous. This top-down procedures or any. And I think any projects just with the any leaders only has the wisdom, only has the courage would be a big problem. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a very smart distinction, obviously, because people can boldly do extremely wrong things and potentially extremely harmful or dangerous things too. Yeah, agree with you there.
So I guess let's talk about how AI can and also Web3 can help solve real world problems. Ray, I think you briefly mentioned how AI can help in improving learning and education. And there's several applications coming out where it actually helps tutor students without them necessarily cheating, basically serving as hey, I can't necessarily tell you the answer, but this is how you go about approaching a problem. So AI has a lot of powerful use cases. I'm wondering if you guys can discuss a little bit about how AI and Web3 can help solve real world problems.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and quickly take a stab at it. I think some of the real life problems that I'm seeing, I guess, being I'm like Japanese and American, I look at a country like Japan, who has a very big aging population, right? And, with that aging population, a lot of the times today, there might be one job that's open and one applicant really who's actually applying for that job. So there's not enough people filling the gap. And, countries like Japan have been kind of starting to look at, say, some emerging markets. But also, I think it's incredibly important to really look at potentially, having some kind of AI assistance in, AI population. Maybe it might look something like having, everyone starts to have their own AI assistant that they can work together with as an elderly. And, sometimes some of the jobs that are only filled by one might be able to do the jobs of three people if they're able to use some AI to really help get their jobs done. So I think some of these, simple tasks, like, getting groceries or, asking an AI personal assistant to make a hospital reservation, any kind of really simple task that maybe some elderly might struggle with, if they could just be able to, maybe work with an AI personal assistant to help them get through some of these tasks. I think that's one way we could see some real world use cases. Um, and I think another area in terms of Web3, in terms of how we can solve some real world problems, I think is around security. And as I mentioned, I'm very passionate about also, identity and security, because I think as we're entering in more to the information economy, being blasted by these bots AI, I think we're also entering a more volatile world where there's increasing hacks, increasing amount of scams also, coming through these different methods because you're able to deploy things very quickly. So I think that, Web3 security is going to be really important in our increasing world. To use, cryptographic transactions with our identity and being able to do any kind of transactions. Um, so I think that that's, two areas that I'm, seeing real world use cases, I guess, is, security in, ensuring that we can also kind of avoid falling into these phishing and, these kinds of attack vectors that are increasing in today's world. And then also, to assist in these like societal problems in countries that, might have aging populations or need assistance, um, with not enough human manpower.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that those are definitely excellent use cases. If you can, provide a way for, like you said, the elderly to be able to, um, you know, for example, like you said, like hospital reservations, that would be a great use case, where you can just ask the AI and it just does it for you. And when it comes to the Web3 security part, I think there may be some solutions already in the market for that. I know, for example, there is this platform I tried once. I think it's called D.fi or something like that, where you can just paste a contract address and it just kind of tells you if there's any vulnerability in the code, or if it's, is a honeypot where you can basically can buy tokens and you cannot sell it. So there, and those, I think there's a lot of AI elements, to those applications, that makes it easier for investors to be able to, be protected. But I'm curious, if what Miko and Ray have to say about this particular topic.
Yeah, I also just wanted to share one more attack vector, I guess, in terms of like some of the security elements. Not just approving a smart contract or connecting your wallet, But, some of these, I guess secure attack vectors are kind of coming at, vulnerable people who might not necessarily be super educated on, cybersecurity, or knowing, it could look, they could probably design a message that looks like it's your sister sending you a message, and you click a link, and next thing you know that your wallet is drained, right? So I think that with the increasing AI and availability to make things very customized, right, they're able to write messages to you that, might sound exactly like what you would be talking to your sister, and, have a different phone number that's masked. And, you might click a link, and, months later, they're able to attack your wallet. So I think it's, very important that, we're continuously educating ourselves and abreast of these types of ways that, AIs and these scams are evolving, because I think we're going to see more and more of them. And I think, Web3 really has to help us in securing us so that we don't get attacked by these types of things. So.
The one that scared me the most was actually the AI voice, changer, where it could basically sound like anybody. I can sound like you. I can, by just taking a few minutes audio and just kind of training it and fine tuning it, and all of a sudden, you can sound like Kanye West, or anybody. And in that case, a scammer can easily impersonate your family member's voice, and say, "Hey, I'm kidnapped. I need X amount of money. Please send it to me." And it just sounds like them. And and they can just literally just scam their victim. So that's a very good point that you brought up. I think that's something we need to really pay attention to. AI is great and all, but it comes with a lot of cons along with it as well.
And I think with that, right, we have to be able to have ways that we can verify the identity of where that's coming from, right? Like, say that voice sounds exactly like it, and being able to verify that account or that person who's sending you that information is really who they say they are, because they're able to now even mask ways of showing the phone number, etc. So I think cryptographic transactions and security is going to be ever increasing for creating content or sending any kind of information. Yeah, so I'll stop there.
Absolutely. Miko, do you have any insight here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, right, which is that, I think this is really part of the adolescence. And what I mean by that is that, it's awkward. It's an awkward stage, right? Because, I believe that the solutions that we're headed towards in rebuilding the internet, right, in a sense, like, we're kind of talking about the death of the first version, or maybe call it the second version of the internet, Web 2, right? So, like, the thing that's really interesting is that the scenario that someone will identify another person by their voice and how it sounds, I think is something that we assume is sort of, that's how we do things, right? But like, eventually we're going to change how we do things, right? And what I mean by that is that in some ways the preponderance of fakery on the internet will kind of cause the erosion of trust of the internet, right? So for example, like, if you hang out in Asia, like, the average person will probably not try to recognize people using their hair color, for example, right? Like, they're going to use other features to recognize people, right? And so, this is like a logical way for people to behave, right? So I think, we're in a weird phase where the things that we rely on, we'll stop relying on those things and we'll rely on different things, right? So I think that, what we're going to see is the emergence of Sybil resistant kind of multi-factor continuous authentication, right? And so, you're going to have biometric, you're going to have, and the question becomes whether you can use things like multi-party computation for privacy preserving biometric, and whether continuous authentication, right? Because once you establish the session, then you want to establish that session continues to be controlled from the same entity, or actor, right? And I think multi-factor is probably the best way to go, right? So I think that we're going to get to a steady state where we're going to have trusted authentication and trusted identity, right? We're just at that awkward phase where the first thing is falling apart and the second thing hasn't picked up, so we're not ready. Infrastructure is not ready, right? But I think, the chaos that fits between the falling apart of the first solution and the arrival of the second, obviously we do have to be careful. But, I think it doesn't mean the final steady state will be one of kind of constant jankiness, right? I think the final steady state will be privacy preserving, biometric, multi-factor, continuous, and trusted, right? So I think people will have mechanisms and channels through which they can actually trust that they're talking to the correct person.
Yeah, I think I want to echo in on both Marisa and Miko, like this trust, and also this AI raised the problem. I mean, I think it's just a problem for now. In the future, we will have so much solutions than the problems. And I think so far, like for example, how do we avoid these scams? How do we better differentiate the authenticity or the different AI powered tools, or those avatars which are like which is just like AI powered, but actually they are fake people, right? So I think education really plays a really like a critical role in solving this problem. For example, like like our stand currently, we just developed this new course that is repro and reveal this flash loan attack. We just educate people like what happened. For example, the recent curve case, right? What is going on during this curve attack, and what happened, and how can we like replay the whole process of this attack, and what lessons we could learn from that. I think if we can help our users to learn fast, they will have the power to fight against this dragon, right? So at this point, I think, and also for AI, yeah, we will have this AI, this avatars or audio, or even in the future, we will have AR, VR, all these different technologies embedded behind the screen. But yeah, that's the things that will happen. What we need to do is just to empower ourselves, our audience, our community to have better skill sets. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray, for sharing that. I guess at this point, I'll just like to take the opportunity to remind our audience, who may have just joined us, that you can still participate in our Learn to Earn program and collect stamped NFTs, which are non-tradable NFTs that act as proof of participation. And you can obviously exchange these NFTs with, for time capsule NFTs, which you can either list in the Bitmart NFT marketplace, or you can open it up for a chance to win up to 50 USDT in price. So again, check out the pin tweet for more information on how to take part in that. If you're here and if you've been here for at least 30 minutes, that means you definitely have qualified to receive your stamp NFTs. So go ahead and check that out, and follow the instructions and visit the website and claim your stamp NFTs. So I guess we can jump back into the discussion, and I guess what one thing I want to for the panel to talk about is kind of I guess professionally, for someone who wants to start a career in AI or even Web3, what are some advice that you can give them? What are some resources that they can tap into to be a part of this evolving industries?
I'm happy to comment. I gotta run soon, but I'll just make a closing comment on kind of how to get involved, right? I would say this, right, which is, just like I introduced this idea of the waves, right? Like the question becomes whether you really think this is a wave that you can catch, you know, and you kind of have to decide based on your own skills, you know, and you have to figure out where you fit in, right? So like, to me, like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily, it's certainly worth kind of evaluating, and there's kind of, in some ways, it's hard to tell if you haven't tried, right? So like, you know, in terms of kind of identifying resources, you know, I would say, you know, my favorite resources are definitely ones that sort of reason more generally about, you know, ideas around investment and contrarianism. I think, you know, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 is pretty instructive about both contrarianism and about investment. You know, even if you don't plan to be a VC, like, you're investing your time, right? So, you know, to me, like, where you put your time and your energy and yourself, and, you know, like, those are all investment decisions, you know, and I think that, you know, the quality of investment decision has to be something where, you know, you're investing your own life energy, your own uniqueness, you know, your own reputation, you know, you're investing a lot of these types of things, you know, and you're sort of making a speculative investment towards the future, right? So, you know, ultimately, you should definitely figure out what you believe, you know, and you should figure out like how to invest accordingly, you know. So, and just try to remember that the two biggest factors are the timing, which is you have to come up with beliefs that have a reasonable timeline of when is this going to happen. And then the other thing that you kind of have to determine is you have to determine for yourself kind of like whether what you believe is a commodity. Because if what you believe is the same thing as everyone else, then, you know, that belief will be completely priced into the market, right? That there will be, you know, just many people chasing that exact same opportunity, which I think will put you at a disadvantage. So those are my thoughts. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Miko. Yeah, those are excellent advice, you know, timing, and also having a strong belief, but not necessarily kind of following the crowd, right? Just having something that can set you apart. And I see a lot of, I guess I'll say developers, or just, you know, people who are building applications and software in this particular industry. There's a lot of people who are taking, you know, basically the whole hype behind AI, large language models, and they're using it to solve like problems, you know, and quite frankly, some of them are solving problems that haven't been solved before. So having that foresight to, you know, understand, you know, obviously this AI wave is not going anywhere, but how can you take advantage of that to, you know, create something that can solve real world problems that, you know, hasn't been done before? And I think there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of use cases, that you can, you know, succeed in pretty much in the AI and the Web3 space. So yeah, timing is very, very important, obviously. So thank you, Miko. I'll pass the same question over to Ray. What advice do you have, you know, for someone who's looking to kind of jump into this, you know, AI and Web3 ecosystem?
Yeah, I think to me it's like, so first I really like Miko's idea of like you know, like doing all this time management, and also which means like we need to invest because our time is so limited. We just invest in the most important thing. And second is about the timing and also the predicting. I think that is like some skill sets that one person has already have, and then they can make very reasonable decisions to invest where and what, right? But even before that, one thing that is very important is about your self-awareness, right? Like one person needs to be really aware, like what I am capable of, right? And where I should better invest my time, and even like what skill sets, for example, like today, like AI and Web3, in both fields, there are so many new developing technology and then new concepts, theories building up every day. So where should I invest my time, AI or or Web3. Like sometimes people would say, oh, AI is a big hype now, let's do AI. And the other like investors, I think I've heard from my friend, he mentioned that like most of the VCs in the Bay Areas now are like shifting to AI. I think that's kind of, like it's like, well, they are making different decisions now, and the projects, they are like struggling. I've heard a lot. But before that, like, I think one just need to be self-aware, and the power, the tool for that is to learn. Like lifelong learning is like, I need to really learn fast to know where I can invest. That is the most important thing I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think there's a wealth of resource, to learn about, these topics. Just, like you said, that's having that self-awareness, but having also that, curious like mindset, if you go online, if you're on Twitter, you probably have seen a lot of people building stuff. Sometimes they're even sharing tutorials on how they're doing it. We see a lot of people building in public, making their work, very like open source. You can even find out, you can watch YouTube videos and, attend courses, like Stan, for example, or even Udemy, or there's so many resources, to number one, like you said, Ray, to figure out like, where to invest your time, like figure out what you're good at. And there's definitely a resource you can plug yourself into, or a community. There are different communities right now on Discord or Telegram that you can plug into and just, basically, build whatever, dream or whatever career path that you want to take. Just, take that first step will be my advice, and have that curious mindset to explore these innovative technologies. So I'll pass the same question over to Marisa. What are some, kind of some advice you can give, someone looking to start a career in AI and Web3?
Yeah, I think that I think that Miko and Rui covered a lot of really important points. I'll definitely echo, I think, on, having courage, right? To also be able to form your thoughts and opinions around kind of what you're reading, and having a very, critical thinking approach, I guess, whenever you're reading things, to really question things. And I think one key thing that the host, you also highlighted, was being involved in communities. I think this is probably one of the most important thing, and pretty underrated, as we mentioned. A lot of these resources you can find online, and, in a lot of ways, if you're looking for your next opportunity, right, I think one of the most important places that you can start to kind of change your life and be involved in these emerging industries is really to start in the community. Get involved in the Discord channels, get involved in the Telegram groups. Start to, like, there's a lot of, opportunities to volunteer and assist with these teams that are doing really emerging new technologies. So I think that actually plugging yourself into a community and having a really active role is really key. And, at Joba, that's one thing that we really value is these, community building. And we're building this almost like, gig marketplace for anyone to be able to come and find these types of opportunities, not just community, but also be able to find opportunities for these kinds of new companies. So I think we're working with a lot of different new protocols that are coming out, different types of new emerging companies, to really help them start to, develop their internet or their online presence. And I think that this is a way, to, you can follow kind of where the investors are going, right? They're investing into these new startups, and then where are these new startups going to be finding people to help, educate, help to create the narrative, create the community around what they're building. So these are some of the opportunities that we're looking to have on Joba, and a place where you can find those, new emerging trend technology type of work, and can do it anywhere from your phone, on your phone, or on your laptop remotely from any location. So we're really focused on, being able to provide that for people. And, I think it's also just in addition to the communities, one other way to stay on top of it is also just, subscribing to different investor lists or newsletters. I think that there's a lot of, reports out there that you can also subscribe to see like, oh, what are the latest companies that are getting funded in a particular AI or Web3 space, right? And then you can see kind of what those companies are doing and follow up and easily follow them on Twitter. So I think that's one way. And, one way to continuously find opportunities, be educated, and keep looking is, through these newsletters and then being actively involved from day one of these different companies. So those are some of my suggestions, I guess, to quickly summarize is just, get involved in these communities as early as you can, subscribe to newsletters and, stay abreast of like, the VCs where their heads are at, because they're spending a lot of time and effort on deciding where to make these kinds of decisions sometimes and creating these narratives. So it's also a good place to get some reports and I'll start to educate yourself on these like emerging trends and new technologies. Yep.
Definitely excellent advice. Be a part of the revolution, be a part of the innovation that's happening. Join communities. Provide supports to people who are currently building in these communities or building these technologies. I see one way that I see people kind of succeeding in their career, their AI career or their Web3 career is basically contributing. So a lot of projects are open sourced. So if you're someone who have a programming background, you can contribute to the particular open source software. And a lot of those builders, if they become successful, they will require somebody with a lot of experience to be a part of their team. So that way is I guess one way from a more technical standpoint to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. I personally I'm in a lot of Discord groups where if you're someone who's like looking for a job or something, you can easily get one. Even if you just start as a community manager, for example, just being active, providing support, answering questions, and as you do that, you're also learning. Whenever they launch a new product, be one of the first people to do the beta test, test it, use the tool, use the product. If they're creating a new AI product, go use it. If it's for example, there's a lot of discussion about text to video or text to image to video kind of large language models. Go try it out, use it, see what it can do. Just get involved. I think that's kind of the way to go about it. And of course, you can attend courses or join platforms like the Joba network to get plugged into these companies or builders that are currently building in the space. So I think those are some of my personal advice. So
Yeah. And also just to add, like, we're really aiming to make it so that it's really easy and accessible, right? Like today, it might be, to make these things like really small, palatable tasks, like some things, you might have to join this busy Discord channel and, you might be seeing that they're looking for a YouTuber or looking for a community manager. We're trying to just become this place where for any kind of like Web3 or emerging trend technology that you can find these, small, easy to do jobs to really skill up and also like earn your credentials. As I mentioned in the beginning, we really would like to support like, stand, graduates to help them be able to also display their NFTs and, have their credentials. So then they can also have access to opportunities. So we're really trying to just empower everyone to be able to, get their, get their hands dirty in these new emerging fields.
Yeah, I think I like your way, like getting your hands dirty. That's very interesting. Yeah, I think like for this, Web3 and AI. So currently, I want to mention that like on our Stand platform, we are using the AI to like the AI tutor, like powered by a large language model. So we definitely so basically we feed into all of our core like our course materials into this copilot, and behind that there is large language models, so there will be like a 24/7 AI tutor for our learners. Like you can just ask this AI tutor any questions about the course 24/7, and you will get like an answer, definitely just like your GPT experience, but more tailored and fitted into our course, because this learning materials are helping the GPT bot to avoid those hallucinations, because our AI bot doesn't really make up things, because we have already fed into the bot lots of good stuff. Yeah, that's one thing. And number two is that after graduating from our course, yeah, credentials for sure. And we also use AI to, like for example, we help you, and we use AI to polish our graduates' resume, and really like to make their resume tailored to the employer's JD. That is super helpful, and we help, yeah, number one, polish. Number two, we help these employees, these candidates to match their skill sets into the, for example, the employer's interviews. So we basically examine the skill sets and help facilitate this interviewing process really fast. Yeah. So if anyone who is interested in learning and also like getting a job, definitely check out our Stand platform. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I think, we are kind of wrapping things up here. But before we do, I would like to, give, Ray and Marisa a chance to, basically, let us know if there's any upcoming, future updates or, roadmap item that our audience should be aware about, for your project.
Yeah, so first, for Stand, as I mentioned, that we are going to have a new course that is repro and review the flash null attack. So this would be like a case study courses, just like the course at Stanford GSB or Harvard Business School. So our course will definitely like dive deep into number one, like what is the story about, and the number two, the especially the technical aspects of this attack case. And last one is like we are going to move forward with with this AI power. I think in the future all these attacks will be unavoidable, but we can also learn from those lessons. So we are going to move forward with different emerging cases, and at the same time we are also thinking about using all these like historic cases to do the predicting, like Miko just mentioned, predicting is so important. So we are aggregating all of our attack historic data there, and definitely we are going to do some predicting power there. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Like you said, there's a lot of, when it comes to AI, there's a lot of hallucination, and it seems like you guys are really training your machine learning models or your AI models to be able to accurately, predict or give answers, to the end user. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what you guys develop at Stand. And for our audience, please follow Ray and also the Stand Twitter account, so that way you don't miss any upcoming updates that they have coming up. So Ray, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll pass the same question to Marisa.
Yeah. No, I'm also very much looking forward to Stand. I want to sign up for a course myself. So yeah, I guess in terms of Joba, currently where we're standing is we're in our closed beta phase. So we've just been kind of testing within a small community. So if you want to check us out, definitely you can make your profile, and we're currently offering like a early adopter tag for those who join us and give us feedback to our platform. And we're just kind of taking a approach in terms of this closed beta and moving into then a more open public launch to be able to get more jobs and gigs onto our platform. And then in the future, probably in around March, we're aiming for a more full launch. So definitely get involved early. We're still working quite diligently, but our MVP is there. And maybe you can start to find some small pieces of work to get started and start earning some credentials. One of the benefits of working on Joba is that you also come to make a contract that you can then also get paid in crypto. So you can get paid in USDC, USDT directly to your wallet. So it's very much a like crypto Web3 solution for starters. And I definitely would recommend, all of you, if you guys are, new or kind of learning to, start, if you'd like to build your profile, you can go ahead and build your profile and join our Telegram chat to kind of stay tuned on our upcoming releases and updates, and also be attuned of any kind of like new opportunities that are coming on the platform. So definitely keep updated and, follow us on our, Twitter, and join our Telegram community to see what's upcoming. But there's lots of exciting things ahead, and, we really help to, empower people for this more flexible work and remote working environment in these new emerging fields. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely check out Joba Network, and make sure you follow them on Twitter. Follow Marisa on Twitter, so that way you can stay up to date on what they're doing. And like she said, if you're interested in this particular industry, AI, Web3, definitely check their website out and sign up, and start getting some certifications, and who knows, those things can definitely open doors for you. Again, join a community, keep learning, and always have that curious mindset. I think that's kind of the lesson here in today's AMA. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's AMA. We want to extend a sincere thank you to our distinguished speakers who joined us for today's AMA. As a reminder, we had Ray Huang, who's the co-founder and CEO of Stand. We had Marisa McKnight, who's the co-founder and CEO of Joba Network. We also had Miko Matsumura, a general partner at Gumi Crypto Group. So really appreciate our guest speakers for spending some time with us today and educating our audience. And also to our audience, we greatly appreciate your presence here and your engagement, throughout this AMA. And we hope you've learned a thing or two about AI and Web3 and how to venture into these rapidly growing industries, both professionally and also as an investor. So we hope you've gained some value from today's AMA. Do not forget to check the pin tweets, like we said in the during this AMA, for instructions on how to claim your stamp NFTs. If you're currently here right now, chances are you've most likely qualified to receive a stamp NFTs. So be sure to follow the pin tweet and visit the website to learn how to claim your stamp NFT. And also follow Bitmart and MetaEra on Twitter to continue receiving educational AMA content like this. We always do these AMAs to keep you up to date on different blockchain technologies, AI, and just how to become an all-around successful person in this new age of innovation, happening across the world. So we do hope to see you in a future Off the Chain AMA episode. And as always, remember to be smart and trade at Bitmart. Thank you all, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good day.
Have a good day.
You too. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.